I think this is something, if you're okay with it, I just
Yeah,
like.
no,
Yeah.
I'm fine. Kevin,
I think
do you know,
you have the,
speaking of
Go ahead.
recordings, do you know whether that LinkedIn local from Raleigh was recorded or not?
That's a good question. I'm trying to find out because I would have loved to
I
have
am
had.
too. I asked Deborah and she hasn't come back to me yet.
Well, I want to welcome everyone today to two gurus, Kevin D. Turner and Jeff Young. Looking forward to a chat today. They are going to be two of my stops on my LinkedIn Rockstars tour. Jeff and I were just trying to figure out the best way to do it. I think the way it looks right now, it's going to be Detroit, Chicago, Ohio on one leg, probably. I got to figure out how I'm going to get down to Atlanta and North Carolina together, because that's going to be another leg, and then Texas will be another leg, probably.
Mhm.
You know, I need a travel agent, so if anyone in this group's a travel agent, because I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this, but I'm really looking forward to it because it's going to be a great opportunity for us to actually meet and see each other and all that. So what I wanted to do is just start out by Jeff Young, who's has become a really great close networking contact. We all came in one day and Jeff Young's profile was gone. And I know, Alex, you can relate to that in a different way. And we were in absolute shock because we're like, what could Jeff have done wrong? What could Alex have done? You know, and we were actually on Clubhouse tweeting and figuring out what to do. And then Kevin, I guess we shared it to LinkedIn. So I was going to ask either Jeff or Kevin, since you were the ones that probably, Jeff, you're obviously the closest to it because you were, did they notify you or how did you actually find out?
I found out by logging on at like 5:30 a.m. on a Friday. And when I logged on, there was this banner that says, your account has been permanently restricted. Press this button to identify yourself. Okay, so that was the beginning of the process. I couldn't log on. Okay, and by the way, a little bit of history here. I had actually been restricted temporarily several times before, a couple of months earlier, back in March. But those were only temporary. When it came up with those, it says you're restricted till this time and date. And by the way, that time and date is like West Coast time. You have to do the conversion. But this time it came up and said your account's been permanently restricted. Identify yourself. Prove who you are. Okay. And the reason behind it is because we think you're a bot. We think your practices are automated. Okay. And so I thought it was a scam to begin with. I mean, I thought someone had hijacked my LinkedIn link, and because what happened when I said to identify yourself is that you either have to upload a picture of your passport or a picture of your driver's license. So I'm scrambling around and I'm grabbing my phone, okay, you know, and I actually took a picture of my driver's license front and back, okay, and uploaded it. And I still wasn't sure, but by that time, then I figured out that it was LinkedIn. So that is the start of the appeal process. Okay, so I'm still gone. Okay, so we're talking about, you know, this is by 6 o'clock, right? 6 a.m. I get that done. Well, about 6:30, I get a message I get an actual email from a friend of mine in Scotland. Okay, I'll mention his name. He's a great person to follow and a great person to talk with. He's one of the best resources out here on LinkedIn. His name is Craig Allen. Okay, and Craig says, "Hey, where are you? What happened to you? I can't see your profile." Okay, and so then I explained it to him, and Craig, out of the goodness of his heart, actually put out a post that morning. Very early that morning. I mean, it's 5 hours later or 5 or 6 hours later for him, but he put out a post as soon as he could and tell people what had happened to me. Okay. I think Kevin joined that group because you actually saw that post, and then you sent me an email, okay, and said, you know, can I help? Which, by the way, is what people who are great at using LinkedIn do all the time, help their network. Okay. So I said, and I think I don't remember the exact words, Kevin, but the offer was, can I contact someone for you at LinkedIn because I have a contact at LinkedIn? And I said, yes, sure, go. I mean, anything that you could do to help me, I would much appreciate, because I don't know how long this is going to take me to get this back. So Kevin did contact someone who then contacted someone else. And I think more than anything, I got to tell you thanks again, Kevin, because it wasn't just, I've got a friend who's been restricted, okay? it wasn't just that. It was, I've got a friend who's been restricted and you can't do this to this guy. He is one of the nicest guys on LinkedIn. He's a role model for LinkedIn. Don't do this. And oh, by the way, he's been on LinkedIn since May of 2004. He's one of the oldest members and he's promoting LinkedIn every single day of his life. So please help this gentleman, okay? So making the long story short, I actually, as of about, it took about 6 to 8 hours, but I was actually contacted directly by one of a very nice person from Chicago, as a matter of fact, a gentleman, and I will give him credit. I don't know whether he wants me to or not, but I think he deserves it. His name is Marty Finn, okay, and he's a LinkedIn rep from Chicago. And he contacted me and said, "Hey, I heard that this happened to you. You know, this is through the process that is the appeal process through the actual support, the customer support back and forth emails that you get back and forth." He said, can I help you, get this back? So what he did was say, okay, then let's actually have a Zoom call and we can talk a little bit more about it. So he and I actually had a Zoom call. I was on Zoom later that day with a representative from LinkedIn. And I got to tell you, Kevin, you got some pull, bud, because that's the fastest response I've ever had to anything. So he got on with me. He said, okay, I've looked at your profile. I get it. You're a real person. No problem. He reinstated my account. Okay. So I was back up by about 4 p.m. or so that afternoon. And he said, now we're going to have to figure out what happened to you. Okay. Because I'm telling him and I'm swearing on a stack of Bibles that no, I do not use bots. I am not a bot person. I am not a bot person. I will not ever use anything like that. So he says, what I will do is I'll contact my team and they will look at your activity and we'll see what could have caused this. What could have tripped the AI, the artificial intelligence, and boy, is that the proper description, artificial intelligence bot that is looking for bots, Okay, so that's pretty much where we are now. He's been back to me a couple of times though. The case is still open. He's the latest and greatest as far as what he said to me is that, and part of it may be because I have a free account. I always have had a free account. But he said, it looks like what you were doing is looking at too many profiles. Now, of course, they won't tell you how many is too many. And what happens if I happen to be a recruiter? Isn't that how I make my bread and butter? So don't restrict your recruiter for looking at too many profiles. But there are other mitigating circumstances that could be possibles as well. I use my browser in somewhat a different fashion than other folks do. Kevin is one of these folks. I've got like 20 to 25 people that I have on speed dial, if you will, that I have their content in a bookmark or a folder that it contains about 25 bookmarks. So in order to use that, all you got to do is go up, right mouse click on the folder, and then Chrome or any other browser will give you the opportunity to open them all at once. Now that's a possibility. So opening 25 things, bang, 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 that quickly might have caused the problem as well, because the bot might be looking at that kind of activity. They've opened, they've done this 25 different things on LinkedIn in this amount of time. Too fast for a human. Yeah. So that's still a possibility, but they are still looking at it. What they have done for me, I almost said to me, what they have done for me so far is they have actually given me a business premium account for free for a year. Nice. So it's very nice of them. I'll tell you why that's not necessarily good news for me in a second. But what that really points to though, and this was a rumor, but this is kind of giving truth to that rumor, is that if you pay for LinkedIn, you get more views, you get to look at more stuff, you get more searches, of course, we always knew that one, but you get more stuff, and his intent there was to make it so that I would not be restricted again until I can figure out what's going wrong. Now, I don't mean to seem ungrateful. I'm not ungrateful. It's nice to have a premium account because now I can see all 90 days worth of who's viewed my profile and all those other neat things that you can see that way. But I concentrate and focus on people who are in the job search, which is what this call today is about. People who are in the job search. And those people are normally people who don't pay for LinkedIn. So I like to not pay for LinkedIn so I can tell those people how to get around paying for LinkedIn if they need to. And oh, by the way, this is a statistic. I don't know whether most people know this one or not. Okay, and I'll finish because I'm talking too much here. But there's a statistic that I've seen quite frequently is that only 4 out of every 10 people on LinkedIn, only 40% of people on LinkedIn actually pay for LinkedIn. Okay, so that means there's 6 out of every 10 people out there that are not paying for LinkedIn, and that is my market, and that's who I'd wanted to help, especially if those people are using it for job search. So that's where we sit right now. I'm
Do you
back.
have any idea how many profiles you might have been viewing? I know LinkedIn has changed it, so now you have 100 views a week, whatever that is.
That, no, okay, now I that's a different rumor than the one I heard, because the 100 limit a week was the one that I've heard recently, which is, I think, rolling out as well, which is 100 invites.
Lights, yes.
Right, okay.
That's different. They won't say what it is. They won't say
Profile
what the
views,
actual limit is.
I think it is 100 a week on a
The
free
limit on
account.
number of profile views.
Yeah, and then on a premium account, I think you can do 1,000 a month on the basic premiums.
Okay.
And then as you get into like Navigator and things like that, they're kind of taking that all out of perspective.
Unlimited.
Again, if you pay, you get extra. And it makes sense, because why pay if you didn't get extra? Right?
Well, and I got to believe that could be part of it. They haven't told me that's what it is yet, but that could be that I got over that limit, because, and here's another way that I use LinkedIn that could be a behavior that I might end up having to change. Okay. I look at a lot of people's profiles, because if I see that they viewed my profile, and most of the people that view my profile, I don't know. So guess what? I look back. Okay. Kind of as a payment for them looking at my profile, I look back. On my notifications, as I process my notifications, or people do comments on my posts or those kinds of things, I will look at a person's profile, especially if I don't know them, okay, again, as a kind of payment. Even if someone just likes my stuff, okay, I will look at their profile as a thank you, kind of, for the like, okay, because I can't send them a message and I'm not connected with them. So I use that kind of, and one of the things that, there used to be a point where, one of the things that you can also look at is a list of your followers. And Kevin knows, and Kevin and I, have got thousands and thousands of followers. We're both right around the 38, 39,000 mark of followers. And so I will look at that page of followers every once in a while. And guess what? I'll use the control click and click on each of those people's profiles and open them up with about 25, 30 different tabs, and then just go through them one at a time to see if I might want to actually connect with some of those people that follow me as well. So that's my normal standard operating procedure. I view a lot of profiles, even though I'm not a recruiter. So, I don't know a number, and it's very, very difficult to count them yourself. I mean,
So-
I kind of have to have a
I will
little clicker.
bet.
Yeah,
I will bet
have to have a little
between-
clicker. Yeah. Oh, that's number 50 for the day, something like that. But Kevin, do you look at a lot of profiles as well? I just do that on a normal basis.
I do, but I've got a premium account. And
Okay.
it's an older style premium account. It was before Navigator. It was called Business Pro.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm kind of grandfathering it. I won't change it because it's got some things in it that you can't get anymore at that price point. So I just keep it. But I'm like you. I actually sometimes have to borrow my wife's to look at what does a free account look like, right? Because she said, I don't care. I don't want anything. I have to tap into hers to remember sometimes of those differences. But I think you're right on it. I will bet between opening the tabs in the browser where it opens them all, because that seems, automated. It is technically.
Yeah.
And then the amount of profiles you're viewing, absolutely. That is something that's definitely a restriction, and so those two combined probably set that off. And that's the interesting thing about what they're doing is they've simplified the monitoring system, right? To catch anything that seems automated without trying to worry about what's doing it, right? Because if they try to figure out what's doing it, that's much more complicated.
Yeah.
To identify, let's say, a plugin in a browser, but I can identify automated processes, and therefore I can shut down, right? Or I can pursue that individual. And that's why they're doing it that way. And that's why if you ask them, they're like, I don't know. The AI just said you're using automation.
Yeah.
And that's its purpose, just to identify that stream so that it can eliminate without having to try to find out what the program is.
With the AI ought to be intelligent enough to say what the violation was and give that as a feedback.
That brings up an issue that I have a lot, which is the lack of transparency and the lack of communication from LinkedIn. And it's a very punitive thing. We've all looked about that. I wonder if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask a very specific question or two. We have some Clubhouse folks here, which I'm very excited about because we get a chance to not only talk to each other, we get to see each other. Oh my God, how exciting is that to see Rachel and Claire and Sanal and all of my Clubhouse folks coming to the dark side here to actually be in front of a camera, because we're trying to get Jeff on Clubhouse and he already said no.
You're even more handsome than I imagined, Kenneth.
Really? That's
The voice and the visual is so nice to have.
nice to see. And you're coming in from California, I think, right? Or are you still on the East Coast?
We are actually in Washington. We used to live in California, but yeah.
Okay.
I
And
get,
Rachel-
to your question though, I get some strange, and I don't know if it's automation or not, but whenever I reply to comments, I always at who I'm talking to, because for me, it's easier when people do that for me. It's easier for me to find the comment. So I appreciate it. I don't mind being tagged. So I tag when I comment back. And I noticed that I do that for a couple days in a row. Suddenly, when I go to at somebody, it doesn't automatically populate their name when I put in the first letter. It makes me write out their entire name before it'll show me who I'm after. Does anybody else have that issue?
I've
Absolutely.
seen that.
Okay.
But you know
That
what?
is a restriction to keep you from tagging too many. And believe it or not, if I've got a post that is doing fairly well, I try to comment back, and I
Yeah.
do that in the comments. And at some point, and it seems to be about 300 tags within a single post, they will cut you off from tags for 24 hours.
Got it. Yes.
Anywhere you go on LinkedIn, you cannot then put a tag in. And they finally admitted to it. It is a restriction to keep you from tagging, because tagging, if used incorrectly, can be spammy, right?
Sure.
And that's what they want to avoid, but they're not smart enough to say, well, this person's actually creating and working with individuals and building relationships that they know. And they just haven't quite figured that piece out yet. But yeah, I get restricted on my tagging all the time. And I don't even tag really in a post per se. I used to. I don't do that anymore. But yeah, that's definitely the sign. And it's frustrating because you can even sometimes type in somebody's name that you want it to come up, and it brings everybody else's name up, but the one you really want.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay. I
frustrating.
thought it was me.
No, it's frustrating.
and-
but
Thank you. Okay.
Claire, I would tell you, there's one other thing that another reason I do that is, as you said, because of the notifications.
Uh-huh.
But I got to tell you that sometimes, even though someone will tag me in a response into a comment, okay, LinkedIn forgets to notify me sometimes. So here's a little bit of a best practice that I also practice as well, especially if
Okay.
it's my post, because I don't want to miss any of the comments. And as a matter of fact, I just experienced this. I'm 2 days after my most recent post. Okay, so I did a post 2 days ago and I put out my tip of the week. Well, there were 2 comments on it that I would never have ever seen because LinkedIn did not notify me about the comment unless you actually go back to the post, scroll down and click the most recent button.
Yep.
And that will show you the most recent post. So I just got 2 of those posts just a few minutes ago before I actually got on this call.
Do you think
So I
it's a
get to-
time limit?
If you do that, you get the opportunity to then respond to them as well.
Yeah, it's usually after 2 days, right?
Okay.
When a post hits 2 days, LinkedIn doesn't really bother anymore.
Yep.
That tells you a lot about how they're valuing the time of the post too. If you think about it, those 2 days are some of your bigger, more important days to be cultivating, and they know that too. But yeah, they stop the notification after those 2 days.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Go
So
ahead,
helpful.
Roy.
Yeah, just quickly, Jeff, so the takeaway from your experiences, the ideal customer profile of a LinkedIn customer is If you're very friendly and very efficient, they don't want you.
Well, that's interesting because the only problem I have with all of this, it's like Kevin said, my effective, efficient use of my browser is causing me a problem.
Mhm.
Don't penalize me for being effective in using my browser for the way that I can, okay? I mean, look, I couldn't do this on my Chromebook, okay? Because if I tried to open 25 tabs on my Chromebook goes, no, that ain't gonna happen.
No.
Okay? Because it just doesn't have enough memory. But I got my Starship sitting over here as far as my laptop is concerned. It's a very powerful laptop that allows me to open 20. Honestly, I have actually at one point in time, I tested it, and Chrome is can be a resource hog. And the more tabs you have open, the more resources you're using. But literally, I can pretty regularly open 60 tabs at once if I want to with my PC. Okay, so I've got a powerful PC, but don't penalize me for having a powerful PC and doing something that makes me more effective, because that just makes me it's so easy for me to open them all at once and then go to the first one, do what I need to do, go to the second one, do what I need to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a process.
And Jeff, I think because you're a 3-time loser, right? This is your third one. They're looking at you more intensely, right? So they're picking up anything. So you're like probably top of the list of this guy's making trouble because he's already been basically locked out twice. This is his third strike. And so we're going to watch everything he does. So if you sneeze, in a video, it's probably going to shut your account down.
Quite possibly.
They're watching you. At least now they know, hey, we're making some mistakes in this process because they're looking, and I'm sure the guy out of Chicago has put some time in. I know the person that I contacted has been checking you out as well. They're going, he's a good player. He shouldn't be shutting the system. We shouldn't be shutting the system down on him. And it's always that Friday afternoon, LinkedIn help in general has gone home.
Oh yeah.
The fact that we got the right people to line up, it goes back to, and it's funny if I can say, it goes back to social currency, right? Social capital. You have to build it on LinkedIn. You have to give, share, help other people, make community happen before you can cash in on it. And we were lucky we were able to cash in on it to get you back in.
Yeah.
Because that's how I built that relationship with the individual that came to help us. And there was 2 others too that actually moved forward as well. It was only through that digital relationship, but it was through giving them a lot more than they ever gave me.
Yeah.
When the time came, it was like, absolutely, for you, we'll do this. And they got to the right people, right? They got that trust and safety team to put your at the top of the pile. There's probably 1,000 other people there. They moved you right in. And, I just tell people on LinkedIn, build that social capital so that when you have to spend it, there's something there. That's why they don't call it social credit.
Let me bring this back to the job search process. Okay.
Right.
Because I got one of my jobs because after this was back in the time frame even before LinkedIn, but it was in networking. Okay, I had applied for a job. The very next thing I do is I go look to see who I might know at that company, and I contact them and say, would you please, kindly do me a favor? Would you mind taking my resume to the hiring manager and giving it to them, hand it to them? Okay. And the point is, that's exactly how you get on the top of that stack as well. Okay, through that social capital of someone being willing to do that for their network. And I'm telling you, the best news about all of this, about being restricted and et cetera, is I felt so good at the end of the day. I did. I felt happy and elated at the end of the day, because when I look at Craig's post and I look at what you'd put out there and what you had done, there were so many people that just came to my rescue so quickly. And they're saying stuff like, hey, if this can happen to Jeff, it can happen to anybody. LinkedIn, what's wrong with you? Why would you restrict a nice guy like Jeff?
Kevin, I'm going to ask you a
amazing.
question that I get asked a lot, and you're probably the closest person outside of LinkedIn that might know this. Any sense of the algorithm?
Oh.
Any sense of how it might be working today or not today? Or
to me, it's interesting when you study algorithms, you're studying history, right? I always look at it like the ghost chasing shows you see on TV, right? They're going to go into an old building, they're going to find ghosts. It tells you what was, not really what is. Any good algorithm evolves, and it evolves beyond what the coder has actually started with. That's the purpose of an AI algorithm, is to evolve. The other piece of it that people don't realize is sometimes they get a success, right, with a post, and they start figuring it out based on that post. And one of the things that all algorithms do is they use something called a one-arm bandit equation. Much like when you go to Vegas, right? You pull the slot machine, it'll give you a little more each time. You put in another dollar, pull it again. All of a sudden it gives you a jackpot. You're like, I'm going to put all that money back in. I'm going to get another jackpot, right? And you keep doing it. And they do that to throw you off, to create these things. And sometimes they'll do it for a week. Sometimes it's a day. Sometimes it's every 10 posts. And it's actually very dynamic based on how active you are on LinkedIn. So they're doing a lot to cover the tracks. But if you think about LinkedIn, the purpose or the whole drive behind LinkedIn, it's not a social good site. That's a side benefit at times, right? It is a business. If you think about what is LinkedIn's business, it is basically selling us as members, right? Selling our data, selling our predictives to somebody who will buy it. Their biggest customer right now, they're a $20 billion company. Their biggest customer, 60% of that revenue comes from recruiters who buy into talent solutions. That's the biggie, right? And so if you go back and you think about it, what does that customer want? And then if you follow that concept when you are posting, right? Original content, always better. If I share content, everybody's seen that 100 times, not as valuable. They want more people to come to LinkedIn, to spend time on LinkedIn. So original content is number one, right? Cultivating the conversation is very high in that process too, because they want people to stay on LinkedIn, right? And so if you start thinking about it in that sense of how does the business run? How do I make LinkedIn's business better? You completely understand the algorithm. One of the things about the algorithm is they have a time frame and they shift that time frame, right? A year ago, it was a golden hour. Then it was 2 hours. Now it might be 2 days. Next week, it might be an hour. Next week from there, it may be 3, right? They're going to vary it. They're always going to keep it moving. But if you keep thinking about why do they do that, is they've got a finite resource, right? They want to, again, get people attracted, get people to work, get people to be on LinkedIn. So they know that feed is part of how they get that done. So they're not going to give it away unless you earn it. So you got to give value. You got to build that community in the process, cultivate the conversation, and get people to stay on LinkedIn. If you can understand that, all the other little pieces of the algorithm are neat to know, may help you tweak a little bit, right? But that's the real core. Original content, cultivate the conversation. If you can do those two things, that will grow. And stay away from gaming.
I'm sorry, does anyone have any questions they want to ask me? I'm happy to have a conversation with Jeff and Kevin for a while, obviously. But if anyone wants to chime in, I know there's a lot of great stuff. I'd love to know from a job seeker perspective what the main thing is that people should really focus on. Should it be engaged in content? Should it be following up on connecting? Are there any specific best practices you can suggest?
Ken, can I just jump in after?
Sure, Rachel. Welcome from Atlanta.
Hi. So fun to see
Hey, Rachel.
friends on here. I think the other piece kind of to follow up on what Kevin was saying is what we were seeing yesterday regarding hashtags. And so it was like 3 hashtags, then up to 9 hashtags, so now we're back to 3 is the recommended, no more, no less than 3 in posts. I think that it's one of those, it's like, make up your mind, LinkedIn, what's it going to be?
Right.
But I think that the strategy now, if we want to really get the best reach, is to be real deliberate when it comes to what those hashtags are going to be.
Yeah. But I always caution, again, that's based on historical data, right? Tomorrow they can change it. Why do they change it? Because those that control the data, the access to the data, those who control the platform control the revenue. They don't really want us gaming the system. If they think we know, it changes. So the more people who post about, here's the thing to do, these are the 10 things you got to do, only do 3 hashtags, they're watching that. And guess what they do next week?
They change it to 9.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because by
Which, by the way-
maintaining control, they maintain the
Very
control of the
interesting.
revenue.
Well, and I saw the most recent thing as far as the 3 is concerned as well, because that was a change from 3 up to as many as 9, back down to 3, you know, and you know what, depending on what you post and how you post it and when you post it and all those other factors, I can disprove every single one of those things as far as what the algorithm does to me. I mean, I just posted a post 2 days ago that had 10 hashtags in it. And that's pretty normal. And oh, by the way, I'm not sure. I mean, what good is it for me to start counting hashtags? Okay, you use what you believe is effective and appropriate, and then be done with it. Okay, and, you know, just because if you're talking to the right people, I got to go back to where it really the value really lies, and that is, again, the engagement. If you get people to engage with your posts, that's what it's going to take. Okay, and you can fiddle with the algorithm. You can say, well, how does dwell time affect it now? That, you know, and honestly, people look at the algorithm as the enemy. It's not the enemy. It can be your friend. It really can. And from that perspective, when they made the change as far as dwell time is concerned, I went, here, way to go, LinkedIn. Dwell time, yeah, people actually spending time on your posts and reading your posts. What a concept. That'd be lovely to have that happen. And if you want to reward me for that, I'm all for it. Go with it. Okay, so again, it comes back to the quality content, the engagement of people on that content, and I got to believe it's not just your network anymore. I think might even have something. I can't swear to this, but I'm you could make a case for the more people outside of your immediate connections that actually comment on your posts, the better off your post would be. That would make sense to me. Okay?
Yeah, they do give credit for those that are not normally in your circle, right? We all have 4 or 5 people who always do stuff with us.
Yep.
They see that, they know that, right? They're only going to give that a certain amount of credit. It's when you bring people outside of your circle in and they're starting to now, you know, work with you and comment with you, and you're building community in that process, that gets more people, again, to spend more time on LinkedIn. And that's what LinkedIn wants. So yes, they definitely, they go for that. I mean, it's one of the reasons I think that they have pushed for follow as opposed to connect. You know, it all goes back to 6 degrees of separation, right? Within 6 handshakes, you can meet anybody in the world. That's why LinkedIn cuts you off at 3. So they can sell you the other 3 or, you know, sell you to the other 3. That's the concept. That's the revenue stream behind it. But when they know that you are then reaching further out, right? They know it's building more people who are attracted to LinkedIn. They're seeing your new content, right? They're excited. It's something they've never seen before. The individual who posted the hashtag information, I only saw his stuff that he was working on maybe a couple of weeks ago. And I'm interested and I'm following him, right? That's how it works. And interesting enough, there is not a lot of difference between 4 and 16 hashtags. And the difference between 3 and 4 hashtags is less than a 5% change. So I'm not going to get all tied up into how many do I have. I'm going to put in the ones that I want, because the difference between 3 and 16 is only less than 5%. That's not worth me spending my time on. It's not worth me worrying about it. And I know, again, as soon as they know we know, it will change.
Excuse
Oh,
me.
Sono.
I think Sonal has a question.
Yes, and Al has a question. Welcome
Hey,
to
Sonal.
welcome today.
Welcome.
Hi, thanks for inviting me here. I am not camera ready, but who cares?
How are you
Um,
feeling?
I got a foot up in the air because of my
Yeah.
cost. I just wanted to say that there are days when your posts are tanking, and I've done a little bit of basic research. I've seen that when it's tanked, like completely, it's gone to the ground, like 500 views in 24 hours. What I've seen is it's tanked for almost everybody across the board. So somebody was doing something at the headquarters and pulling some strings. The only ones for whom it hasn't tanked, and I could be like, I think I'm 97, 98% correct. The ones for whom it hasn't tanked, chances are highly likely they're in some sort of a support group / pod, and they support each other. So they continue to have 1,000 likes every post, no matter what. I mean, it doesn't make sense because I have friends who have 1 million followers and plus, and their post gets 50 views. If you do the math, 50, not 50 views, 50 likes, 50 likes for 1 million. And for me, 30 likes for 20,000. It doesn't make sense. So there's definitely something going on in the algorithm. And the second thing I wanted to say is, if you go to LinkedIn and you start scrolling, whether you're on desktop or on mobile, I'm sure you guys have noticed every third post is sponsored. It's amazing. Every third post is paid. That's what they want you to do, I guess, Kevin. I mean, obviously they're making money from recruiting, but if you're a small business owner or you're helping job seekers, they want you to pay, going the Instagram route. So
I am so good at cleaning my feed. Every time I see an ad, I click, seen it
not
too many
interested.
times.
Exactly.
I do that so often now. I only get a sponsor about every 10.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how you can
keep on
control
top
it.
of them. They run out of ads, right? If you say, I don't want to see that one, you do that 20,
Yeah,
100
that's
times, they don't have anything left to serve you.
That's good. That's a good workaround. They'll still
Yeah,
somehow
so-
creepily, they do
Only
creepily
takes a
somehow.
second.
Yeah, they do creepily somehow come on in your feed. But if I'm looking for a job or I'm looking for a client, the one thing I can control, because I don't like all this algorithm talk, because I honestly can't control it. And chances are that LinkedIn people don't know what's going on either. But what I can control is showing up on a regular basis with high quality content, which is solving problems. And I need to be crystal clear on who is my target audience and what do they care about. Who is my target audience and what do they care about? This is one thing that I see even pros getting it wrong. They do something, but they post about something completely different. Like every post is a quote about positivity and I'm like, yeah, okay. Eventually people get sick of it and they unfollow. But if you're showing up and you solve a real world problem, people are like, I want to connect with this person. Eventually, when you show up in their feed a lot or you connect with them one-on-one, which is what we want. We don't want to hang out so much on LinkedIn. We want to get into private messages and have these conversations offline. And that's when the magic happens. I'm a big believer in stoicism. Algorithms a pain in the what. But what I can control is how I show up and who I show up for.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm on Clubhouse. This is Sonal and I'm done speaking.
This is my kind of clubhouse, so now.
No, I mean, I think it's important. I mean, I always talk about quality versus quantity, and there is an absolute frustration that some of the posts and things you do don't get any notice, but if the right people are doing it, that's just as good. But it's also about commenting on content, engaging. For some reason, I don't totally understand why polls get so many views as opposed to just content. It's probably the fact that LinkedIn pushes them, maybe. I don't know. Alex, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to ask a question. It's a very basic question, and hopefully somebody can react to it. The question is, why LinkedIn? I have the feeling that the people on this call can be divided into 3 groups. One is Kevin, you, Ken, Jeff, perhaps a few others that spend a lot of time learning and on LinkedIn. I would say I belong to the second group. I am very often on LinkedIn, but sometimes seconds, sometimes 2-3 minutes, never a kind of half an hour to an hour. And I think 80% of the people on this call are basic job seekers, and they want to use LinkedIn to get to a certain objective that they have. So perhaps somebody can clarify this, talk a little more about what I just raised.
I definitely think you have to know your purpose on LinkedIn, right? Mine is very different. Jeff's very different. We might spend the whole day on LinkedIn, right? Or even be on a phone call or Zoom call and LinkedIn's still up like it is right now. It's still going. We're there. That suits our purpose. When you are job seeking, there's a portion of the day that you should spend on it. And you should see, figure out what that is, because there are other things you need to do during that day. You need to be networking with people, right? You need to be doing your research. You need to be also spending time to keep your mind and body in shape, right? There are things that you have to do. So it has to be proportional to what you want to get out of it. And, I normally will say, for most people, if you're in the job search mode, an hour on LinkedIn a day is plenty. You don't have to be any more than that. Find the time that it has the greatest impact. And, for me in business, my morning, when I post and stuff, that's where I get my most activity. I think that's where a lot of people probably spend the most time overall. And so that's a smart time. Use it as if, instead of the old days where you read your newspaper while having coffee, use it as your LinkedIn time, because it's a very active time and it's a good time to get exposure. So that's what I would say.
Well, from a job seeking perspective, I think it's extremely important to do what Kevin says, and that is have a goal. What are you after as far as LinkedIn is concerned? And I would agree with that hour. I think that's a great, a good rule of thumb, is to spend a total of an hour. But you know what? I might spend 4 different 15 minutes on it as well. So I might do it 4 different times a day and come back. If that fits my style better, that would work really well for me to do that. Then I can go do the networking meetings. Then I can go have breakfast with a friend like I did this morning. Okay, and not be on LinkedIn. It's extremely important. But the key, after you have got the goal, after you've got a real reason for being there, then the next thing you've got to do is you've got to spend enough time on it so that you're using it effectively and you know how it works. Mm-hmm. Because you can't get anything done if you don't know how it works. You're just wasting your time. Okay, so you have to figure out how to get at those kinds. How do you make comments? How do you make comments that are thoughtful comments? You spending 25 minutes a day doing nice posts on a million isn't going to do anything. Exactly. Yeah. Sonal, I know she teaches.
But Alex, it's a great question because I'll give you an example. I have a client who's looking at a CEO position. The people she wants to talk to do not hang out on LinkedIn. They just don't. So it's good old-fashioned, yeah, Twitter or Medium or Yellow Pages or referrals, like, this guy, and can you make this introduction, and they only talk to headhunters. Do you know the headhunter in this firm, and they're in Zurich, or I'm in Brussels, because the higher up you go, people have all kinds of perceptions, and one of the perceptions is LinkedIn is a waste of time. It's not reality. The perception is it's a waste of time. So a lot of people at that level aren't hanging out. So the point is, you got to go where your people are. When I say your people who will buy from you or hire you, and where do they hang out?
Yeah, very true.
Absolutely.
I wanted to jump back to Kenneth's question on polls.
Yeah.
Polls to me are quite interesting. LinkedIn had them back in, it was around 2013.
Right.
What's interesting about polls is when you answer a poll question, you are giving away a lot of information about you and how you think, right? Believe it or not, LinkedIn is using that as a predictive analytic tool when they're selling you as a product to recruiters. If your answers are very negative on polls and your comments are negative on polls, believe it or not, that follows you forward as maybe a culture fit issue. What LinkedIn did, because there's so much value in data that comes out of a poll, is they said, well, we want to promote these. We want to give you a little more. So if you run a poll, instead of it being, 1,000 or 10,000, it's going to be 100,000 people are going to see it, because we want the data. And right now, if you go and you download your own data from LinkedIn, there is a section that is every poll you've ever answered, right? All your answers are there. If you look at it and you look at those things individually, you can go, wow, they know a lot about me now that they never knew before. That's why polls are important to LinkedIn. The reason they pulled polls in 2013 is people were using them, believe it or not, as proof in like press releases and stuff like that. The LinkedIn poll said. Now, that's wrong because it's really not a LinkedIn poll. It's a Kenneth Lang poll. He is polling his network, right? Maybe up to the third degree, right? But the Kenneth Lang network thinks a certain way. That's why they're the Kenneth Lang network, right? My network might think something different. Sonal's network, again, different, and Jeff and Alex, they're all going to be a little different. So those answers are a little different. And that's what we have to think about when we put these together is we're not polling the world. We are polling our community that we've built, right? So your answers are a little swayed in a way, but that's why LinkedIn has given them so much more value. Now, I've noticed because some people thought about it and said, wow, I want to get in on that. I'm going to start asking stupid polls because I don't have enough time to figure out anything intelligent. So I'm going to run stupid polls. They're going to get 100,000. People are going to vote. LinkedIn said, wait a minute. Now we're getting garbage in. So LinkedIn has pulled back the exposure for polls. Hopefully, so the people who are doing garbage polls will leave. I saw one the other day. What type of clown scares you the most? And this was from somebody who's pretty big on LinkedIn. And I'm thinking, first of all, if I'm afraid of clowns, I don't want anybody to know I have a fear, right? Because what can they do with that information? And then, you know, there were some funny choices. I should have taken a snap of it, but
I thought we
that's
weren't
the kind of
talking
stuff that
politics.
gets into now we're giving LinkedIn garbage, and they're trying to put that in as a predictive on us so that they can sell us as a product. And that's where we need to be very sure of why are we on LinkedIn and what kind of behavior and what kind of things are we doing on LinkedIn that move us forward to our goals. If it doesn't move you forward to your goals, don't do it. Don't ask clown preferences polls, right?
I am so creeped out
Yeah.
on so many levels. You cannot unsee that. If you ask that kind of question, you can't unsee a creepy clown. But you know, this is a great
I
point.
actually
And
stopped following the individual.
I swear, they are literally clowning around on
That was
LinkedIn. That's
it.
what they're doing. They're clowning around. No, but the other thing as well is, which is very interesting, and I feel very sorry. You know, you scrolling and you see someone has a poll. They posted it 4 hours ago, and they have like 3 votes. And I'm like, let me, you know, I'll vote or something like that.
Thank you for doing
But
me the
not
forefront.
when it's a clown post or which chocolate do you prefer, you know, random stuff. And I think it also comes down to, one is, of course, if it's silly. Second is, this is a different topic. I know you didn't ask about this, but some people get very in their head when it comes to the poll. It's not simple, like A, B, or C. It's like very hypothetical. And I think that's what's going on. LinkedIn is promoting polls, yes, but some questions are quite abstract. So I think it's a great idea to keep things as simple as possible. And Rachel had a great point in our Clubhouse room about doing a smart poll and then following up and staying in touch with those people.
Absolutely.
I think
That's one of the
Kevin's take on
values of polls.
Go ahead,
That's how
Rachel.
LinkedIn's using it, right? Is to mine the data.
So Kevin, that was really interesting about the way they're using polls, because I did a poll on Friday about, do you work on the weekend? And it's my all-time best LinkedIn post ever. Like almost 20,000 views, which is huge for me. Almost 800 votes. And so that context makes so much sense now, because lots of comments about people who work on the weekend or what they do or what they don't. And so that's just fascinating. I'm so glad. That's like the best nugget I'm going to walk away from that. Because I was like, what is up with this poll? Like, this is ridiculous.
you know what-
Sanal, I did a poll about chocolate over Valentine's Day, and that was a very successful poll too. But you know,
Yeah, but there's a reason, right? It's not a random, what clown do you prefer?
And
I
sometimes
definitely
people
don't
want
prefer any
entertainment
clowns.
too. So sometimes it's fun. That brings me back to one of my favorite polls, not an all-time scoring poll, but I actually was on a Saturday night on LinkedIn and I put a poll out there, who uses LinkedIn on a Saturday night? 20% of the poll votes said, no, I do not use LinkedIn on a Saturday night. These came in before midnight, between 6 p.m. and midnight. That's, to me, is night. That's Saturday, right? And 20% of the answers are no.
But Kevin, maybe they were in Australia and New Zealand
I don't think so.
and it was Sunday.
Maybe a few, but I think basically you have to take them for what they're worth, right? And again,
That's exactly
20%
right.
of my network doesn't tell the truth. Maybe that's it.
Well, but
I don't know.
Your point, Kevin, about polls is exactly right. You're talking to your tribe here, okay?
Mhm.
That's the way you should, because I don't care how good your poll is or how many votes your poll gets. It's not a statistically valid sample anyway. That's not what this is about, folks, okay? It's another way. And the reason that I think LinkedIn brought polls back in the first place is because it's another way to interact.
Mhm.
And that's what they want. They want people to interact with one another. So that's the real purpose of a poll. And yeah, I agree with you. I would not, well, I saw one that was about chocolate once. I said, what's your favorite kind of chocolate? White, dark, milk, et cetera. I don't eat chocolate, whatever. I think that's not the point of the poll. The point of the poll was to see who's out there and who would interact with it in the first place.
that was my poll, Jeff, and we had a whole conversation about Reese's peanut butter cups.
Oh, yeah, we did. Okay, I knew. I'm sorry I didn't remember that was you, Rachel. I mean, I loved your poll because I think when I couldn't pick one because I'm going, there is no such thing as good as bad chocolate. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And then
So
we were
after
making
all
fun
this,
of-
Jeff, if LinkedIn sends you some Reese's peanut butter cups as an apology for taking you off air, you'll know where it came from. Rachel's poll is now part of your digital personality.
Elliot, did you want to say something?
Sure, just to follow up what Kevin was saying and to address the original question that was posed before, why LinkedIn? I just wanted to say, at the risk of making her blush or embarrassing her, when I first saw Sanal several weeks ago, and I think it was one of these sessions, and she talked about being live on LinkedIn, I thought, how is that going to work? Now, several weeks later, I see what a beautiful use of that medium is, and it is in sync with others, going back to Tonight Show with Carson and Steve Allen and engaging the audience and going out live, and other people, financial gurus who essentially have their prior shows. That is to say, I can be on LinkedIn during the week. When I'm taking a jog or running, I will simply go there. I'll play back a show. I'm not really looking at it. I'm hearing content. And if there happens to be a point or a name, I might take a screenshot. And when I'm finished, I'll look up the individual and that'll just be out there. It's not even desk time or whatever. It's just content that's immediately accessible on a medium. Other people have to set up their own separate website with their own URL. Here it's right in front of us, and it doesn't necessarily have to be live. And I think that's a creative and inventive use of the medium, that supplements so many other things, and it's beautiful. Of course, you have to have the talent to pull it off, but that's a second. Thank you.
It's not a requirement, talent. I've seen a few, not Sanal. Sanal, that's pure talent, but most of the others, somewhere in between.
No, nobody starts this way. It's 1 day, 2 days, 3 days of muck-ups, 4 days, 20 days, 60 days. It's always practice.
You also have to be you also have to be willing to fail with whatever you do. You can learn more from failing than you can from success sometimes. And that may be a little counterintuitive, but besides the fact that it will make you a better person, you want to have that adversity that definitely strengthen you. I think that because all of us have had those challenges.
But isn't that what they call experience? It's failure. I mean, it's like 3 failures today, that's experience. And that's why people have to pay me a certain salary, because I have so many failures and I have so much experience. For me, it's all about how you frame that F word.
A new F word, huh? Okay. We gotta be G-rated here, but now if we say F, we know what that stands for here. It's failure, for sure. Go ahead, Roy.
So I decided to go into Jeff's LinkedIn profile and see if I can learn something to ask him a question. And I see message, so I click on message. I'm a non-paying member, and I get a message with Jeff with premium. With premium email, you can message anyone, so it's not letting me message him. So then I click on more to see if I could connect with him, and I click on connect, and it said enter his email address. So I can't. I'm looking at Jeff, and I want to connect with him, and I can't.
All right, Jeff.
Okay. That's on purpose because, again, my network is, and I don't, it's not that I do not want to connect with you, Roy. I would love to connect with you, but my philosophy of connecting on LinkedIn is different than many people's out there to some degree, because I actually like to have a conversation with someone and actually, I would rather you follow me first and interact with my content. And then I will probably, if we're doing that on a fairly regular basis, I'll probably be the one who sends the invitation.
So
But-
so that's you doing it, not them.
Well, the real reason, honestly, the real reason I've required my email for that is that has totally eliminated all those generic, that I would ignore anyway, those generic invitations to connect where someone doesn't send me a message that says, hey, I'd like to connect with you. Okay. All I ever used to get was, hi, I'd like to add you to my network on LinkedIn. Hoop-de-doo. That and that and $4.50 or $5 will get you a good cup of coffee, but it won't get you a connection with me. I'm sorry. It's just not my style. So
Okay.
I'm more than willing, I can interact with people in lots of other different ways. I talk to hundreds of people every single day that I'm not connected with. Okay, and that's through my content. That's through my group. I've got a group out there that you can actually, and by the way, if you were to join my group, you could actually send me a DM through the group without being connected with me. Again, it's back to how to know how to use LinkedIn to accomplish what it was that you wanted to do in the first place.
And Jeff, I think you and I were connected for a year, or not connected with for a year. We were collaborating.
Yep.
And I think it was just in a fluke. We said, hey, you know what? We're not connected. It was like a year later. We're like,
how did
no
that
way.
happen?
And that was it. We weren't connected.
We've been talking every day for 6 months. How come we're not connected?
Just a point of information, Kevin comes up as the first Kevin Turner in the Kevin Turner search, but you come up as the fourth Jeff Young.
Well, I mean,
Actually, I'm the third Jeff Young. That's why. And the second and the first Jeff Young. And that's how I get my business done. They all direct back to my profile.
That's my other brother, Daryl. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Okay,
you.
well, next week, Alex Freund, who actually left the call, but his robot is still here, I think, because I don't see his picture, is going to be doing a discussion on the bots. I'm going to leave you in good hands with Marty Latman next week, because I'm going to be taking a disconnect from social media for a day or so, during the week, no less. So I don't know how I'm going to pull that off, but it's going to be very interesting. So I wish you all the best next week. Thank you all for attending today. Great to see some Clubhouse folks here. Have a great day. Talk soon. Enjoy the weather.
Yeah.
Bye, all.
Take care, folks.
Bye.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Ken. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, guys.